This is Shireen Kapoor. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to discuss a very important topic. In fact, it is one of the most important topics these days because a lot of applications have shifted from the LMIA owner-operator pathway, and people have shown, at least in 2023, a lot of keen interest in the intra-company work permit transfer. So there are many people who want to know information beyond what is given on the website, because on the website you will go through, there is a lot of information that is there that you can read. There are basically directives for the visa officers, there are directives for what kind of genuineness documents you should show, C61, how C61 is LMI exempted, how to apply LMI exemption, blah blah, all those things for immigration representatives as well as the layman. So there is a lot of information that is already out there by IRCC, and I can put the link in the description box and you can go read it. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to definitely discuss some of the key points which in my years of experience has come up, and I have seen them personally, I've witnessed them. Maybe what has worked for me would never work for another person, and what has worked for another person would not work for me. So it is very different application to application, but some of the key points in which an intra-company work permit application can be successfully given a work permit, and approval can come through depending on where you're applying from, what are the strategic changes you have done according to that. And these are some of the key points that I'm going to discuss today, and how you can support your application. If you're applying through an immigration lawyer or consultant, then what are the key things you need to take into account, especially when it comes to the ICT work permit. So before I begin, I'll just give a brief introduction of the kind of experience I have had in particular when I did the intra-company work permits for global clients. And one of the key concept is that my strategy is very company specific. It is not employee specific. It is more of employer specific. But because at the end of the day, the employer is applying and using the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs under the International Mobility Program of Canada. And I would also see if the place of application is a visa exempt country or is it a visa applied country. And I would also see another thing, that is where you're applying. Are you applying on the port of entry? Then my strategy in my document package is separate. But if you are applying on a visa office, wherein the visa office would have a lot of time to go through your documentation, then my strategy would be a little more detailed, a little more different, a little more, I would say, more of documentation, because maybe you will never face an interview with an IRCC officer. But then again, one document, one letter which suggests everything, that the job offer that you're applying for, even if it's for your functional manager, senior executive, even if you want to transfer yourself, then it has to come in a way that it looks very a legitimate job offer, and the program does not look like it's just being used or abused for immigration purposes. So this is one of the key things that I keep in my mind, and I recommend everybody working on an ICT application, not just ICT, I would say any immigration application, should keep in mind. So before we start, we'll give you a brief overview of also probably the experience that I have had. I am an immigration lawyer. I do mainly business immigration, and I help investors, people, global companies move to Canada in different economic pathways, through different economic pathways. And in that, in one such this thing, in that whole process, and in my field particularly, I have in these years of practice, I have also seen that there has been a shift from LMIA owner operator applications to intra-company work permit applications. And in 2019, there was a decision that was coming in place, which finally came place in 2021, in which the immigration officials actually cancelled the owner operator program, the job advertisement program, which was again it was a very good program. It had a lot of success rate for people, investors who were going to open a business in Canada and start their own operations, and particularly become owner operator of their own. Not to mention that you cannot do that right now. You can do that right now, but of course the pathway again has become like any other LMI application. You have to go through the job recruitment process, which again is a little more complex process, but yet it is possible and very much doable. Coming back to that, so that is why when a program in immigration is from used to abused, then they actually close it. And this is what the IRCC has witnessed in intra-company work permit applications as well, that somewhere the program is now being used in such a manner that it is not just being used for a legitimate purpose but also for immigration purpose. So it is very important on how your application is processed and what kind of image that you're giving to the officer sitting there in the office about your particular company and your particular transfer of the employee. So these are some of the key points. And intra-company work permit transfer, eventually, see, it can be misused also by people if not given the right impression, because at the end of the day, if you are coming as a senior manager, then it is 200 points as well after 1 year in your express entry, which you're going to get after Canadian experience. Because generally speaking, a person with a business acumen, a person at that age and stage, a person with all everything else is still not gonna meet the express entry cutoff, which is going on right now approximately 500. It's very difficult to come into the federal skilled worker category, and that is why the officer might have an image in the mind that this person might abuse the process, because after 1 year they know he or she after Canadian experience will get the 200 points. So definitely the way you submit your application, the way you work on your application, the way you portray yourself in the application, size of the company, company structure, company relationship with the parent and subsidiary company, everything matters. And each company, I would say personally, it's very important for me as a lawyer to understand the company rather than the person more, because if I know the company, then I'm able to better advocate for the company. One of the key questions that I get, and it's very important, I would say, in terms of the size of the company. So a lot of people ask that does it have to be a very big multinational level company, or can it be a small size company? Does it have to be 6 to 10 employees, or does it have to be 200 to 500 employees in the company? So all these questions are related to one good question, and that is, what is the size of the company? So in my opinion, if you ask me, the bigger the better, the smaller the more work and the more complicated it is. But again, I'm not saying small companies, sole owner companies are not able to do intra-company transfer, but I'm just saying that big companies, it becomes a process becomes much easier, smoother, faster, everything. And then again, there are other aspects and parameters to it, but one of the key parameter is the size of the company. Now if it is a big company, then what is the perk? The perk is that there are many in an organization structure, there are many corporate heads that if one person goes, the other person can manage, and that is the intention of the officer, to see that how the parent company is still going to run. Because remember, that is one of the prerequisites, that the parent company still needs to operate even after the transfer is done, the job is done, because again, it's a temporary program, and people want to see, and the officer wants to see that the person is going to go back after the assignment is completed, like any other temporary permit. So one of the key aspects, if it is a big company or a small company, not to mention that I have had a few excellent success rate with sole proprietorships, partnerships, depending on the country of ownership of the parent company. So I'll give you an example. Like for example, we recently had a very successful case from Karachi, Pakistan, of a sole ownership, just because the documentation, the everything about the parent company was much in place, everything was smooth, everything was easy, and it was not very difficult to navigate the corporate documents as well of the parent company. Because usually what I have seen in the South Asian countries is the problem has been mainly with the parent company documents. Business is there, everything is there, but the company's documents is not properly maintained. So I need to check and verify whether those documents of the parent company are sustainably workable for me or not. Second is that sole ownership's number of employees working under you. Very important. Again, it boils down to an organizational structure chart. Maybe you are the sole owner of the business and you want to transfer yourself. Okay, perfect, you can do that. But then, okay, we need to know who is the next in hierarchy, who's going to take care of the parent company in your absence. If you're going to manage both, then that is also another explanation that we can do. So it depends, it really depends on your company, your case, who wants to transfer. I have had experience in big companies. When we have done for big companies, we have been able to transfer functional managers, other managers who are like 6 to 7 tiers down in the hierarchy. But there are also applications in which we have done the top CEO level person migrate to transfer themselves to the parent or subsidiary company. Second, coming to a second point is that what kind of applications are going to get approved easily and smoothly. Now, before going into that question, I always say that it depends on the kind of country where you're applying for. Are you applying from a visa exempt country, or are you applying from a visa required country? For example, if you are applying from the UK, of course it is a much smoother process. But whereas if you're applying from India or UAE or anywhere, then the process of course is a different one. So there are so many expats that we have done from the Gulf region, and they have had very successful rate, because again their applications are processed by the visa officers like in India, but technically you are already a multinational company in a Gulf country. So, and the documentation obviously there is proper. So it depends where you're applying from. Again, it also boils down to the fact that if you are from a visa exempt country like the UK, then my documentation package would be precise, concise, because you are going to apply for work permit on the port of entry. So when you're applying a work permit on the port of entry, there is a lot of other people that are coming in, and the officer CBSA does not have that much of time. Whereas if you're applying from a visa office like New Delhi, Bangalore, UAE, Abu Dhabi, any other office, even Iran, applications from Iran, whatever we've done in the past, in my experience, I can say that those officers have a lot of time, and they are going to go through the company documents properly. So again, your documentation package would vary from the place of application also. Okay, so now let's discuss how the structure of the company matters. The structure of both the company really matters. Usually, again, it can be different for anybody else, but in my experience, establishing a wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company is the easiest and the most smooth transition, I would say, because of course when you say you are opening an intra-company branch, that means that it has to have some relationship or link to the parent company, and that is what we do usually when we are doing the sole owner, sole proprietors, and we are doing single people. We do it in a manner that, because they are the common link, hence we do it in a manner that we move those people, we make the same obviously corporate structure of the parent company as well as the subsidiary company. So a wholly owned subsidiary, in my experience, would have a much successful and a smoother application process. Not to say that other documents and everything still matters a lot, but in my general experience, I can tell you that this is one of the key factors of showing the relationship, the corporate relationship between the two companies. The other very important aspect is the employee who is being transferred and what position that person is being transferred for. For example, you cannot make a technician a manager in Canada, right? So you have to bring them from the same position and give them the same job offer in Canada, because technically both the positions should be same. The relationship, again, those are repetitive things and very much available on the website. The relationship has to be 1 year there, besides the three in the last 3 years. So it is very important that the person being transferred comes under the same position. Also, I would say that if it is coming under a specialized knowledge category, there is a whole lot of discussion on that. If you are transferring a person of specialized knowledge, because they need to have some proprietary knowledge of the parent company, their work process, or some kind of trade secret, you can say, before the transfer. But when you're doing a senior managerial this thing under C61 LMI exemption, then the process is kind of like a startup. And of course, a startup always needs a good business plan. There can be no success without a business plan in an ICT startup application wherein the owner wants to transfer himself or herself. And let me also clarify this, that the business plan is one of the key documents of your whole application, and the business plan has to cover some practical aspect of your financial commitment, as well as the parent company's financial commitment towards the branch company, and how the operations are going to work is what the officer is going to look into. And with each day, because of the temporary foreign worker program being used or abused, I would say, or the fear of it being abused, they have become really strict with business plans. There is another key factor or key thing that I have noticed in my applications, and I would love to work that way, and it is also one of the you can say it's also one of the trade secrets of my application, and it's like a secret ingredient. But it is that before giving my lawyer submission letter on my letterhead, I like to prepare a submission on the company's employment letterhead, the parent company, wherein we explain the background of the client, the background of the company, the background of the person being transferred. Everything is in that application, because when what happens as a visa officer is that they tend to keep the lawyer letter or the immigration consultant letter on side and read first the company letter, because unless and until they have some clarification from the company, the lawyer letter is just a supporting letter. Hence it is very, very important that the letter being prepared comes from the letterhead of the employer, the company, the parent company, and it is done in such a manner that the officer understands that everything out there is a legitimate way of moving your parent business to your branch office. So like today, I discussed some of the key points of an intra-company transfer application. In a practical aspect, I'll like to discuss more such things, and you can write in the comment section if you want me to discuss about any particular topic. But in my opinion, this kind of knowledge, which is not easily available on the internet, is what I like to share because of the experience over the period of these years that I've gained through my immigration lawyer experience. So yeah, you can get in touch with us. All the contact details are in the description box, and if there's any question, query, concern, don't forget to put your comment in.